taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today we're going to take a look at a replay in the New Orleans. Yes, now what inspired this, me playing the New Orleans today, or well, in this replay anyway, was the Veterans Day, the Veterans Month, splash picture they have on the game launcher. Right, it shows New Orleans there sitting at port, and so it looks really cool, I thought anyway. So I figured, why not take out the New Orleans? I have her. I don't really sail her very often because I'm not very much of a fan of the New Orleans. Until now, I'm starting to grow more of an appreciation for this New Orleans, and actually I'm thinking that once I get the Hindenburg, well, I might get the Tier 7 Russian cruiser first, but anyway, I'm actually thinking now about starting to get the Baltimore, whereas before I wasn't even considering it. It was like, man, one day I'll have a Des Moines, basically, but meh, that's far down the road. But now I'm starting to consider it and looking forward to it. The biggest, there was a lot of criticism about the New Orleans, obviously, but the biggest thing that I struggle with this ship is my play style, right? You guys who watch the channel enough would know that my probably weakness is that I'm too aggressive. I might, see the situation unfolding, but think, no, I can get in there and save the day, when really, no, I can't. And I just end up dying or go off, maybe not on my own, but too far away from the team, right? So that's my biggest weakness, or one of them anyway. And the New Orleans doesn't cater to that sort of play style. It's not a ship that you can push alone or just sail off all by yourself and expect to be fine. It's not going to be able to do anything in that situation, basically. It'll be really ineffective. What you want to do in a New Orleans is really stay with the team, and ideally what you're going to be doing is trying to play some sort of supporting role to your battleships, a really critical role to your battleships, because especially in this map here, in this match, you can see there are two enemy aircraft carriers. There's a Suikaku and there's a Ranger that we're going to have to deal with, so we really want to be aware of that. And you can see right now, I was kind of still trying to position with the team, so I do see some of my battleships kind of heading over here to the east, so I figure that, I'm going to get in position here, maybe take a few shots off at any destroyers that pop up, right? And we do have some enemy destroyers that do start to pop up, so we'll take some shots off at them. Something I found about the New Orleans as well is I really do like the way she handles. Playing German cruisers, Japanese cruisers, and Russian cruisers, especially most of them, I guess, maybe not the early tier German cruisers, but the cruisers are longer, right? They're really long cruisers, and being a long cruiser, they do have a bit of a weakness in that their turn radius is pretty large, and then you can't really make a tight turn. The New Orleans doesn't seem to suffer from that as much because she is a shorter ship, if you've noticed. She just doesn't seem to be as long as the other cruisers at this tier, and it really gives her the ability to sort of maneuver around and make some tight turns that you wouldn't normally expect a cruiser to be able to make, especially if you're playing a lot of the other cruisers, right? So this is something that I noticed right off the bat, and I didn't think that, that you see the turns I was doing there, I didn't think I was going to make the turn, actually, but I did end up doing it, and I didn't have to reduce speed. I was able to keep it at full throttle. Another nice thing, obviously, with the New Orleans is she does have some pretty decent AA armament on her. Not as much as the Kutuzov, I don't believe, but, it's pretty much right up there with the Kutuzov. It is some pretty fantastic stuff. I'm not very used to using the defensive fire ability, so there are some situations in this battle where when I was watching it through that I guess I could have used the defensive fire. Plus, I don't take out the New Orleans a lot, so maybe I should be running some premium consumables here as well. But anyway, grouped up with my Amagi, right? And this is the battleship that I've chosen that I want to stick by and I want to help out. It wasn't really a hard choice considering, there aren't too many battleships to choose from here. And this battleship was right in front of me, right? So he kind of had a similar idea, or rather this player had kind of had a similar idea of potentially going down the middle channel, just seeing what's there. So I see the battleship here, so obviously I'm just going to form up with the battleship and protect the battleship from any sort of incoming planes that might be coming his way, or the player's way. We do see an enemy Amagi off in the distance. It obviously has a stock hull, right, so we know that it's not going to have the advantage of some extra hit points and extra armor there, but still the guns are going to be fairly decent, so we don't want to get hit by this guy, ideally anyway. We do see that the Amagi did just fire, and those shots are coming straight for me, so I have to turn and get out of this whole situation. We have another enemy Amagi who is fully upgraded, or at least has the hull over there, so we know that he does have, or that player does have the armor and the extra hit points. Luckily, I'm able to turn, right, so I was able to avoid the incoming shots from that stock Amagi, so that was pretty good. Not too shabby at all. Just taking a look around, keeping in mind, I want to try and protect my my battleship, the Amagi that I'm with. I am sailing parallel to the player right now, and I'm also looking at the minimap because I want to be aware of the enemy airplanes. What are they doing? Where are they? And are they coming at us? So I want to be prepared for that as well. We do see quite a few enemy airplanes in the air, but most of them seem to be focused on other parts, or other team members, other ships, and I wasn't going to leave the Amagi and go and fight off those other planes. I just didn't think I could get there in time, and then I leave the Amagi's open, and now they're attacking the Amagi, and I'm not in position to do anything about it. So that is what I'm trying to avoid. Just going to stay with the Amagi for now anyway. Circling back around, because it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of enemies over here on the west side, but it does seem to be that there is some sort of push happening on the east, but I still really wanted to go up the middle channel. And you can see in fact that my cruisers and the battleship Amagi behind me, we are turning and going up this channel and pushing pushing up north, right, through this little channel here to try and get into the enemy base, or at least get in behind the enemy base and see what we can do. And this is where the New Orleans really shines. I'm in, a little fleet. We've got myself, I've got an Amagi, we've got an Thotgor, and we have a destroyer. So this is where the New Orleans really comes into its own, in my opinion anyway, and I started having a whole lot of fun in this battle. Suddenly, I don't have to worry about maybe my weaknesses, say my weakness at, when the ship gets close in, right? I don't have torpedoes to deter enemies in that sense, or maybe my guns, not being just as great. Those weaknesses are covered up because I have other ships around me to take that up, right? So we have the Amagi coming in here, but I have a friendly Thotgor that's in front of me, and the Thotgor is going to get in position to launch torpedoes. And in fact, torpedoes are on the way. I think I hit Z by accident there. I normally don't do that, but anyway, hit Z, and we got to see those shots go in and miss. But you do see my friendly Thotgor, yeah, his torpedoes, that player's torpedoes are on the way for the Amagi, so that's fantastic. We still have the battleship, our other Amagi, coming up through the channel. I'm going to go in amongst these islands here to get some cover, and also try and pick off any enemy planes that might try to attack us while we're pushing up the channel. You can see the Thotgor's torpedoes are on the way for the Amagi out there, but the Amagi did manage to turn, but the player is on fire, so that's great. We know that there's some consistent damage being done here as well. Going to push through this channel now, and I'm going to get in behind the enemies, because again, I can see my allies. They are continuing up the channel, and the enemies here are engaged with them. So if I can get in and behind the enemies, surprise them, and we can encircle them with this destroyer I have coming up on the starboard side as well. That could go a long way to really disrupting this enemy defense of their base, and then maybe we can actually get into the base and start capping it. As well, we do have an advantage at this point in time. I mean, we've only lost one battleship so far. Our Amagi that we've been escorting is still alive, by the way. That player is coming in to the channel now as well. We do see an enemy destroyer here, so it's a Kiev, so we're going to want to be aware of how close we are to this player, because the torpedo range, if we are within, I think it's 4 kilometers, if we're in that 4 kilometer range, those torpedoes are really fast and they might get us. So we're going to try and get out of the range, but still continue to put fire into the player. And then you can see a bunch of enemy planes coming in, and it was this point here where I thought to myself when I was watching the replay that maybe I should have actually hit the defensive fire. I didn't actually do it because I thought that the planes were too far away and I wanted to get in closer before I used it, but I never actually managed to do it because there are torpedoes. Now the torpedoes run out of range, and I would have been able to make the turn anyway, but at the time, didn't really know that, wasn't willing to take the risk, because if I would have turned, I definitely would have taken at least 2 torpedoes there, so I'm not going to do it. So I ended up turning over here, enemy destroyer off in the distance. It looks like my destroyer is all over that, and in fact, yes, there goes the enemy destroyer. So the enemies no longer have any destroyers, and they only have 4 ships remaining. So my team here really, like, this push that we made really worked out well. We lost a few ships. We did lose 3 of our own ships in this push here as well, but you know, that's not too bad considering we still do have a pretty good force here to continue on the push. We've got myself, our Amagi is still alive, and now we have 2 destroyers. So the Thotgor is gone, but that's not necessarily too bad. We can still get this push going. I mean, the enemies only have an Thotgor off in the distance that we can see right now. The other remaining ship is a Mogami, who has yet to make an appearance, and then of course there's still the 2 enemy aircraft carriers that we'll have to deal with. So we know that the planes are still going to be an issue here, so I'm still going to have to get into position to help my Amagi out with some of these enemy planes that are definitely going to be incoming. Now kudos obviously to my aircraft carriers in this whole venture as well. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to pull this off. I mean, this is really a battle where a whole lot came together very well. You know, we really worked as a team, which is not something you see very often, but this is the situation where the New Orleans is really an excellent cruiser. I mean, maybe not the best cruiser, but it's still a fun cruiser. At least I had a whole lot of fun playing this, and in fact since this battle I have played the New Orleans more, you could say a lot more than I have in the past, because in the past I really played her not at all, but I've played her more than you know, I ever have before, and I've been enjoying it for the most part. You know, maybe it's just where I've been playing a whole lot of German and Japanese cruisers and now Russian cruisers. I'm just missing, you know, something new, and the American cruisers, for me anyway, you know, are providing that. It's sort of nice, nice refresh on the game, I guess. Well, maybe not refresh, or maybe not on the game, just for the American line. I never really went down the American line a whole lot. I did it a lot in the closed beta, went down the American line in closed beta, but just wasn't really satisfied with what I experienced with the American ships, I guess. But also, you know, I do have my own bias towards the Japanese ships. Just, I think they're amazing. But anyway, you can see at this point in time we've corralled the remaining enemies into the corner of the map, basically. We're now actually capping the enemy base as well. All of my teammates are basically here. There's one cruiser sitting in our base, and I'm not 100% sure what that player is doing. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that that player is disconnected. You do see that there are some enemy torpedo bombers there, right? And I, again, didn't pop my defensive fire ability. I was holding off for these guys coming in, and this is what I was talking about. You know, I probably could have used it more, especially considering I basically only used it once this battle, I think, and yeah, it definitely could have done more in this with the defensive fire. But anyway, getting into position to intercept these planes so that they don't do too much damage to my friendly Amagi. In the meantime as well, I'm going to keep firing at the Thotgor. Now, a whole lot was going on for me here, and I wasn't sure exactly you know, what I should be focused on, and I was fairly focused on the planes actually. So, you know, in hindsight again, I probably should have fired armor piercing off of that Thotgor, get him out in one salvo. But whatever. Then we have the enemy Amagi off in the distance. I'm still kind of focused on these planes here. I want to get them gone. Most of the planes, you know, got destroyed. Didn't do a whole lot of damage to the Amagi, but we do see these torpedo bombers did manage to get their torpedoes off. The Amagi takes one torpedo, and I start turning to form up with the Amagi, and I'm totally unaware that there's actually an enemy torpedo on its way for me, right? There it is there. Yeah, I didn't see it at all, but it doesn't matter. I did pretty good on my hit point conservation there, so I was really able to take that one torpedo hit without any issue, and luckily as well my repair party is right there to stop the flooding, so no big deal at all. We have one Mogami remaining, and then we do have the enemy Ranger as well that we're going to have to deal with. But on the whole, I mean, this was a really good battle in terms of team play. It was just... It was really great, and the New Orleans, you know, came into her own, and it was fun to play it. I found the ship really responsive. I was really able to you know, dodge things when I saw them anyway, except that, you know, last torpedo I just took. Didn't see that. That was my own stupidity. But when I did see things, I was really able to dodge, weave in amongst the islands. And the most important thing for me was that I was able to continue doing all this at full speed. I didn't have to slow my ship down because maybe I wouldn't been able to make that turn at that at my max speed, because the turning radius is just too much or too great, which I really do enjoy. It makes the ship a little more maneuverable, a little more responsive, which is great as well. The range, I mean, we do see basically in the while the battle was taking place, I didn't really notice the range of the New Orleans being that much of an issue. It wasn't until this end part here where I have some enemy ships that are, what I would consider close, and I really want to be able to fire at them. And in fact, I can almost fire at this Mogami, but the fact that he's sailing away means, by the time my shells get there, he's not even going to be in the range for them to hit. But this was the first time that I really sort of noticed the range on the New Orleans. It's not really, I think it's really manageable, especially if you're playing with a group of ships and a fleet of ships. Now, the fleet of ships that you're playing with is going to have to be engaging enemies ideally 15 kilometers and under for your main guns to be really effective. But as long as the little fleet that you're with is willing to do that, then it's it'll work out. In my situation, right, we were able to do that, and a main part of that was the Amagi on my team. He, that player anyway, really stayed with us the whole time, right? It was always in the rear. I mean, it's a battleship, so it's slower than all of us, but still was keeping up with our pushes. We're pushing through the channel, getting into the enemy base, and I mean, finally here as well, we've decided just to kill all the enemy ships. We're not going to bother to cap the base. And the Amagi is still pushing with us, obviously, to get these enemy ships gone, which was really good to see. Not going to happen every battle, though. I mean, most of the time, or in a lot of the battles you're going to play, I don't know if you're going to be able to get this sort of teamwork out of random people. If you're lucky enough to be in a fleet or a clan or whatever they're going to call it. I guess it's going to be clan in ships, I don't know. Whatever they're going to call it in ships, then you have a pool, hopefully you have a pool of people that you play with on a regular basis, and you can form divisions and usually, get the division working in one direction, and maybe some of the other random people will see you working together and sort of follow suit. Anyway, we do have some final torpedoes on the way here for the Mogami. You can see the Mogami, the player basically sailed into the edge of the map, and then there was nothing that could be done. I mean, our torpedo, or our carrier planes were all over the enemy this battle and finished them off, and fantastic. Now, I mean, you can see as well throughout the battle that the registered damage I did wasn't a whole lot, but look at that, I still finished 3rd overall, so there's definitely benefits to playing, as a team, right? Even if you're not dishing out the most damage, well, that doesn't necessarily matter. If you're at least active, shooting down planes, getting hits, setting fires, really supporting the team, you're still going to get rewarded at the end of the battle, assuming that you win anyway. Anyway, that was just sort of my take on the New Orleans for now anyway. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. I always love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.